listening to Reset Race. You're now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race. You're now tuned in to Reset Race. What? Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Back on the grill again. We grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake. Lineage go back to US Southern plantations. Lineage, Jim Crow and mass incarceration. Redlining lynchings. We are old from this nation. You're not about justice if you ain't for reparations. MG the wise one. Cousin mother intellectual. Samantha bringing fire. Anti-black we pressing you. No permanent friends and no permanent enemies. The backbone of the country to win. You need our energy. You gon' see. Listening to Reset Race. You're now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race. You're now tuned in to Reset Race. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Back on the grill again. We grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake.
This is going to be our new ally show. We have kind of went around and picked people from all over the place. Most of you guys I've known for a while. Some of you guys are new, which is actually kind of good. I'm excited about that. And we're all going to get together and kind of talk about, you know, why alliances are important, why we've decided to come to some of our stands that we have. And hopefully this will help you guys with growing and how you feel about trying to build alliances with people, as well as being able to talk to your friends and family members. So from there, we're gonna start with Sinead, like Sinead O'Connor. Now I got it, I can place it. So go ahead and introduce yourself. Just say hi to everybody.
Hey, I'm Sinead, and anything else?
No, just say hi, that's it. You can just say hi. If you wanna give them social media, give them social media. Y'all know I'm running off social media pretty soon, so I'm not even bothering. But if there's anything you want to promote or anything that you have going on, please do so.
None
so okay, all right. And then next is Ada, right?
Ida.
Ida. Next is Ida.
Ida. Yeah, I don't know. The anglicizing. I mean, we have a very simple phonetic pronunciation in Croatian. A, E, I, O, U.
You're Croatian. Okay.
Oh yeah. No, I got that. That's the same way it is in Spanish. I got it. Now I got it. Perfect. Yeah. I understand.
Yeah. Actually, my dad gave me this name because he went with a list, you know, to the place to register me, and that was the shortest one, the only one he could remember. So that's how. So yeah, I'm Ida, and West Coast Gadfly on Twitter. And I came to this country 30 years ago, or almost 31, just before the war started at home. And it's been a journey. I spent 14 years in New York City, and now I'm here in California, in Berkeley. And yeah, I came to this country with my ex-husband, who is Black, and we lived in the projects in the 90s, in the middle of the crack era. So I have stories.
Oh yes, we'll get into your stories over time. Yes, we'll get into the stories.
So that's that for now. Okay. Yeah, all right. The question comes later, right?
Yes, the question comes later. Okay, Edie, your next step.
Hi, I'm Edie, and I'm in California as well, in Southern California.
All righty. And then I'll introduce myself late, but I'm the last of the ladies. So I am Sam, AKA the Khaleesi. And yeah, I'm getting tired of social. Actually, no, I'm just too busy to be on social media. I'm too busy trying to get shows and information out to the people. So, alrighty. So next up, we're gonna go to Gabriel.
Hey everybody, Gabriel Piemonte, Twitter at Gabriel Piemonte, website GabrielPiemonte.com. I'm like very boring. And I'm here from Chicago. So hey everybody. I'm also, it's me and Juice, my cat is sound asleep right in front of me. So you're gonna see him eventually. He's gonna hop up, I'm sure. Really excited to be with you all.
Sorry, I was slow. All right, next up, you're up, Jason.
Hey, Jason Smothers at Incarnate, which is kind of a weird one to look at, but it's just from a old gamer tag. Anyway, so I'm East Bay DSA, former Bernie bro. I'm really, excited about what's going on here with what they got going on. I love the style of the videos and the subject matter. So I just look forward to working with everybody.
Sorry, I'm slow. I'm changing my name and the thing. So, all right. So after that, we're gonna go John D, Killmonger, and then Mud.
Jason Smothers, what a name. I love it. The Bernie bro. That's all right. So I'm John Del Vento, not the Bernie bro. I have the small podcast called The House of Del Vento. If you like these type of ideology, political kind of discussions, history, I love these type of things. I love doing podcasts, and that's kind of how I connected to this channel, which is a great channel. I really love what everyone's doing here, and it's really great to be on. I've been on a couple episodes, so some people have been followed me after the fact, and I really appreciate it. Everybody can check me on social media as well. In my personal life, I'm just a composer. I write jingles and do music, and I've been in some spaces on the right, spaces on the left. I'm interested in different religions and different cultures, so I got into a lot of jazz music in my 20s, so that kind of was my basically introduction into the beautiful, well, I would basically call Black culture of America, BAM, Black American music. So I just have this really awesome passion for the culture, and in terms of the reparations debate, I just really enjoyed the connection we have with history and everything. So I'm more of a music person myself, so I'm not any expert on any of these things. But if you'd like to follow me for my music, I like to at least give some historical perspective when I can. I think we have a great music history here as Americans, as humans, especially. I think it's the Black American music is just fascinating. It changed my life. So I do mostly music, but I know we're not going to talk about that today, but that's my social media shout out if you Google me or whatever. But it's that's it. I write jingles and I do these things. So thanks for having me.
Oh, you're what? I'm glad that you're with us. All right, come on, Killmonger. It's you.
Greetings, humans. It is I, Josiah Hillmonger, the great and powerful. Let's see. I am a reparationist, and I'm here to explain to you why everything you think is wrong. And I'm gonna show you how to get right. Like, if you listen to Black people a long time ago, America would be a much better country. And this time we're gonna do it right.
All right, Mud, you're up.
Yeah, they call me Mud. You can find me on all my social media at Of Lineage, one word. That's Twitter, Instagram, and Clubhouse. But like Sam, I'm getting to a point where I'm about done with all this social media stuff. Anyways, let's get to the show.
I'm glad, because we got a lot of work to do anyways. We got like 4 documentaries to work on. So I think we should abandon social media January 1st. All right, so give me 1 second, y'all.
Well, you get suspended and censored and everything. Like everybody makes, it's getting so nuts. Honestly, it's not even fun. I just took a week off because of the power outages and everything, and it felt so nice, just therapeutically, honestly. But that's where you get a lot of news and stuff. Sadly, social media.
If we could get a real group of people to really like defect, we could do our own.
We should.
Because we were looking into that like a year ago. Like we were looking into that like a year ago with hold on, Flo texted me. Oh, no worries. Flo can't make it. Her son needs attention. He's 3, so he wants his mommy right now. But no worries, we'll catch her on the next one. But I lost my whole train of thought because I started talking about Glow. What was I talking about? Sorry, y'all.
Yeah, about a year. You were saying about a year ago.
So when we were doing ADOS, so when the ADOS groups were going, because the censorship is coming. So we were looking into getting like a program that it already had the shell and everything built. It was like a Twitter.
Right.
All you could have just made a few little tweaks. You gotta have a good amount of people. But remember, at one point, ADOS had like 50 to 80,000 people. You get like 10, 20,000 people to come over. At least you could conversate with each other.
The problem is, that moment, it's funny because I feel like that was so prescient in that moment. I was having some conversations with Chris, and there were some other people, of your group who were thinking through that. I think that was our moment. Honestly, I feel like the ADOS moment on Twitter has come and gone. I think we're in now the aftermath. There's some value to it, but there used to be an intense education process. Like ADOS Twitter was like nothing else, and probably never be anything like it in a moment of time that was probably about 8 or 9 months long, where like jackasses could come on Twitter and be like, oh, reparations, that doesn't make any sense. People would patiently walk them through, and it would be like groups of people walking through. And so you would go from like incredibly complex conversations. I learned more about economics. I learned more political theory. There was so much education, but also basic people could step in. And even if they were talking crazy, you would have, there was a team on hand at all times, 24/7. There was a team.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't sleeping. I remember it was bad.
Yeah.
I would be up all night, like dropping articles.
The work was there was so much hard work that was being done, and it's gonna, unfortunately, I think we're not at a point yet where historians are gonna, recognize the things that are happening in our society on this kind of a level. So I don't know if it'll ever appear anywhere, but that's a critical.
We'll have to write it. It'll be written because it'll be written by people that were in the movement. That's the only way. But I don't know. I still have hope. I have hope that with what's going on with the convergence of the left, if we could get that happening with not just ADOS people, but with white people and other people as well, I think that could be really powerful.
But there is already some stuff in writing, but there's negative stuff in writing too, sadly. The academic papers out about ADOS, like two out of 5 of them are anti-disinformation, Russian trolls. They're this white supremacists,
which is so good. Oh my
God! That's
all.
But you mentioned written history. That's already kind of in the written record, and that's sadly how academia works. This one cites this one and this one, and it becomes a. So some of the studies on ADOS right now are unfortunately in that negative sphere, which is annoying. They. I don't think anybody here is a Russian troll. I don't know, or a bot, or anybody that I've talked to.
So for fun, right?
When Bernie was running,
we're rewriting. So me and Mud are doing the How the Irish Became White document. So literally, when they talk about the Irish abolitionists and the people from Ireland were talking to the Irish Americans, like, how can you be okay with slavery? This is the problem. They start saying that the abolitionists were being paid by the British to overthrow the government. This is not new. This is literally what's happening before the end of slavery.
I love it.
I screenshotted it and everything. I'm gonna make sure I put that into the rotation so people add that to the one in the 60s with the Black people beware of communists, and then you add us now with the Joyanne Reid ADOS misinformation YouTube that she did. Like it's a perfect stream together where you can see that this is always a tactic. Like it's just a tactic.
Right.
This is why I like history, because you can just weave it all together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good segue into reparations. So I'm gonna jump around. So I'm gonna go by like how everybody's kind of in my screen, and we'll go from there. So Sinead, can you go ahead and tell us how you came to be for reparations?
Well, you know what? I don't think I was ever against it. It just was not on my radar. You know what I mean? It was about me. I'm working, I'm struggling. Me, what do I need? And I was hustling for Bernie Sanders. And when he said no to reparations, something happened inside me. And I couldn't get that stank off. Every time I thought of him, I thought, you coward, you panderer, you're pandering to the white race. And it just, you know, I never felt about him the same, because I thought of anything we need. And yes, I am for Medicare for all and all that good stuff. But come on, you know, pay back a debt that has been owed forever. And it just, and then I came across you guys, and I thought, all right, that's it. That's great. You know, because I can't talk about this with white friends who, you know, we're not as close anymore. They're moving right or neoliberal, whatever you want to call it, but they're not interested, you know? But I don't know why. I grew up with a jazz musician father. That might be part of it.
Maybe.
A Latino neighborhood, as we used to call it. And I don't know, I'm just not, you know, it's always, that kind of stuff's always been on my radar, you know, the extreme injustice. And how could you not? I don't understand it. To me, it's insane. How could you not want reparations? You know, that's about as simple as I can put it.
I'm sorry, I wasn't unmuted. I thought I was unmuted. I said thank you. I appreciate that, definitely. So Gabriel, you're next up on my screen.
Oh, okay. Hey everybody. So there are some generational history and stuff I could do, but I'm just going to start in 1986 when I met Mudavana Patterson out of Oakland. David Mudavana Patterson, who was teaching in Boston, where I grew up and also where I went to undergrad. And he became my mentor, and I got involved in an effort to incorporate Roxbury so it would become an independent municipal entity from Boston, so secede essentially from it. And in that conversation, they were flying folks out from Palo Alto, where this had been done successfully. There was a lot of context work, and it was really, I don't recall any other white people in these meetings, but there may have been, you know, one or two. But it was primarily community work, and that was kind of the beginning of what I think is a fairly deep political education, economic education that you do not get in any kind of organized education in America. And so then I will jump from that to I ran for office a few years ago, and my platform included redistribution of property, you know, acquiring property in a ward that is substantially African American, and I wanted to specifically take property and give it to Black folks who had lived in the neighborhood for, you know, over a certain period of time, certain number of generations, because that kind of redistribution to me just makes sense and is what you should do. And I had a couple of people working with me, older women, one of them with the Nation, one who was a union organizer, who said, you know, just say reparations. Like, it's okay. You don't have to be afraid. And I was like, well, I feel like, you know, is that really my place? And so I had a moment, you know, this was a few years ago, where they were like, look, you're either down or you're not down. Like, you can't, it doesn't do you any good to sort of be at the edge of this stuff. Either we're working together or we're not. So you have to make up your mind. And so I took that leap during that election, and then kind of just got, you know, it reoriented my social media accordingly. I got pulled into some stuff, and you know, the rest is history, as they say. And I'm just really happy to be with y'all today anyway.
I'm really happy to have you with us as well. All right, Jason, you're up.
Hey, yeah. Like I said, I'm former Bernie bro. I mean, I still appreciate what he does. So, I mean, that kind of gives you an idea where I'm at. But I also identify as a bit of a, you know, socialist, mutualist, anarchist. So my politics are further left than probably maybe some people in here. And so the ADOS reparations just makes sense to me, looking at it from, you know, a leftist perspective. So in that regard, I've always been kind of a supporter of it. Never found a platform to even help, move the movement, move it forward. I mean, there's never been an area I've ever seen where that was the case. Obviously being, a leftist that, we're, we're notoriously at each other's throats. So it's hard to agree on anything, and let alone get together people that are going to be like-minded about something as progressive and as sweeping as this is, in regards to, just addressing race relations in this country. So I have been a supporter of it for a while in regards to politics. Came across Reset Race, through YouTube, because I watch a lot of YouTube, and the messaging and the style that they have was just caught me, and I was like, oh wow, this is awesome. And then I saw them, put something out there at the end of one of their videos about, looking for help, people to help out with the, spread the word, so on and so forth. And that's what I did. I contacted them. So that's it.
And now he's kind of like enveloped in the family. See, just out here picking up white people everywhere. Edie started something. So, and then next we have Ada.
All right, so like I had a little chat with Sam on Tuesday evening, and it's weird. I'm still a Bernie bro, or Bernie bra, or whatever you want to call it.
Goes Edie. We got a bunch of Bernie bros in here.
I just
You're recovering, in my opinion, but go ahead.
Right.
well, I'm in mourning. I feel like I died, or part of me died, as of April 8th last year when he dropped out. I just, the sense of hope is dwindling. The sense of hope in saving this planet. I mean, without a planet, everything else is moot. I mean, without a livable planet. So that was my big reason for supporting Bernie. I would have taken a bullet for him. I would have crawled over broken glass to get him elected, because I'm just so worried for our children's future. I mean, even now, people are already, we are already in the apocalypse. It's just not everybody's feeling it equally. And I could go on and talk about the Green New Deal, but that's not why we are here. So the whole so the reparations issue, it really blindsided me. It was just not on my radar. I mean, I guess I heard of it because I went to see like all of Spike Lee movies when they were out in the, when I was in New York in the early 90s, and his production company was called 40 Acres and a Mule. And so that's kind of, I think, where the idea where I first heard of it, but then I just didn't connect it so many years later, and it just I didn't realize that there was this movement bubbling under the surface, that we are so sandboxed on social media. Like, you don't get to really see what's going on here, what's going on there. You keep seeing the same shit over and over and over and over. So and Facebook, same thing. So actually most of my friends from my socioeconomic status have unfollowed me over 16. They all they can't stand me, I guess, but or they just don't, they don't want to see any political posts. They just react when I post personal stuff, which I occasionally do to see if there's anyone still following. But like I can't say I was ever against it. I just wasn't it wasn't on my radar. And so I feel like I need to really read, and I'm reading MG recommended From Here to Equality. I'm almost halfway through. And I'm just, I'm a Virgo like Bernie, so I like to be thorough and really study things to understand. I put more weight on understanding than knowing. And so fast forward, Tim, what was it, 3 weeks ago, he did this ass whooping video, and I was literally standing in my living room here and clapping so much that my hands were hurting afterwards. Like, I've actually been through a lot of the stuff he was talking about, from having been on the steering committee of the draft Bernie that then became Movement for People's Party, which I left a long time ago after a year. So, everything he said was just on point, like really on point. I was screaming. I was literally screaming in an approving way. And so then my reaction to his video and my tweeting in support of what he said created a whole well, I wouldn't say unexpected, but in some ways quite shocking pushback from the people he criticized and the people who support them, and people that I had been in, we've been in the social media and other in-person trenches for years, and they like blocked me, they unfollowed me, they unfriended me, and over this whole reaction that no, it was not misogyny. Where the hell did they get misogyny on that video? Like, we watched two different videos, and I'm kind of going in circles here, but it's all been a journey and a process. It's not like now you see me, now you don't. It's just the issue of reparations per se it caught me by surprise when during the Bernie campaign. I didn't know what to make how to think about it, and I didn't understand enough about it, and things were moving so damn fast, and like Bernie was under attack from everybody, the entire machine, the media, the all the moneyed interests. So I think he was walking like on this, somebody described it as walking on a tightrope over some chasm filled with like alligators underneath, and so that's the position he was in, and it was not easy. And so I honestly don't know what he could have done or should have done. I don't want to go into that because I really don't know. But I
it's
know
okay. We don't force
yeah.
people to beat up. We don't force our Bernie bros to beat up on Bernie. That's not a requirement.
Yeah, it just I just feel the guy's doing the best he can, and no, he's almost 80, so it's a whole different.
He's fine. He's just an idiot when it comes to reparations. On a lot of other stuff, he's amazing, but he doesn't.
His other plans were great.
The other thing that he should have done, embrace reparations. It reorients your understanding of the entire country when you say, we're going to start with the people who have been destroyed by our racist policy.
True,
you just start there, and then all of a sudden this abstraction, he sounds a little bit like Reagan every once in a while when he's talking about, all boats being raised and stuff, and you're like, I don't understand. He's so progressive, but now he sounds like a fascist. What's happening?
Well, in Europe, he would be dead center, I think.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
That was my thing. That was my only thing. I was like, he's not really radical. He's radical for this country, but he's not
Exactly.
really radical.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I kept saying that too, and I had commissioned a meme to point that out.
But he seems like a nice guy. He just, the reparations is the litmus test. That's what I would argue.
I see.
Yeah, for these days.
Yeah,
Just because. Yeah. But I liked when you said, when we talked the other day, I like when you said like how it came out of nowhere. Because like for us, Josiah, Mud, Gabriel, we had been on this since like 2019. So, and the funny thing is, we had been reaching out to people in the campaign. So it hit the supporters out of nowhere, but it didn't hit Bernie's campaign out of nowhere because we were reaching out. Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, we never came at people before we tried to reach out to them. There was always people trying to get a leg in. It was only after it was like, oh, okay, no, here we go.
Interesting. Yeah, I had no idea about any of that, so it caught me totally
Because
off.
Killer Mike had come to Tone's podcast, and Tone and Yvette talked to Killer Mike, if memory serves me correct, and that was plenty of time for Bernie to have, and at that time Killer Mike was part of that campaign. So I don't want to get super deep into Bernie because I don't want to beat him up, but the Black people who worked in the campaign who aren't celebrities or running for something said that they had no voice. So I think people were trying to tell him and he wasn't listening. But that happens sometimes, and that's why we're all together now, because it's plenty of time before 2022, 2024, so people can understand that this is a real discussion that people want to have.
Yeah, I know, and I thank all of you and Tim, you know, for like, he threw that gauntlet, and I was like, wow, this is really, you know, he said he was drawing a line in the sand, and I was like, yep, and I want to be on his side of the line. I don't want to.
Well, I'm glad you chose the right side of history.
It's enough is enough, and like I can totally see what he was, you know, the way he kind of about each person, you know, he named names, and I could see his point very clearly. I didn't see any like misogyny and all that bullshit. It was
no, Tim was on point, definitely
up.
And we're all happy that Tim kind of did what he did, and it definitely is gonna bring a lot more good work. So I'm hoping we can do good work with this group. So I'm gonna let Josiah go ahead and tell us how he came to reparations.
So once upon a time I was born. I'm Black American. I need reparations. Are you muted or am I muted? You hear me?
Yeah,
I'm muted. I'm sorry. No, I can hear you. Can you come either closer? Because you sound a little muffled and you're a little echoey.
How about now?
Way better, because then I won't have to be messing with the sound later. Thank you.
How's that? Any better at all?
You're clear to me.
Yes, slight echo.
So I'm Black American. I was born in Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah.
I think a more interesting question is like how come it took me so long to arrive at reparations? And I'm gonna be honest, it's the limitations of the imaginations of white people, white leftists specifically. Like as I stepped into politics, as I became an adult, I fell into a certain crowd with a far leftist, anarchist, these types of groups. And they had all the best politics. They had all the coolest ideas up until it was time to talk about Black people.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the conversation got a lot more interesting. And then everything got more nuanced. It no longer do we want to abolish all hierarchy. Some of these things we want to keep in place. Some of these things might require a more, what's the term for it? Damn, I forgot the word. Either way, it doesn't matter. My point here is
nuanced.
It's nuanced. It starts with an I forgot what that is. But basically, for when it came to Black people stuff, it's like, we're going to take our time with this. When it comes to abolishing the state, we have to do this today. When it comes to, even when I would speak to some of the
class reductionism,
people, it would be like, when it comes to Medicare for all, you know, it doesn't matter how much it's going to cost. It's going to benefit America in the long run. So we don't really care. Doesn't matter who's going to pay for it. But when it comes to reparations, I don't know about all that. But I'm like, we've already paid reparations. We're paying reparations now. But still, how would other people feel if they had to pay reparations? I can't possibly imagine. I've only had to pay reparations for every time America's had to pay reparations.
Exactly.
But yep, that's my sob story, and I'm sticking to it.
And then even with you talking about, you know, with America paying reparations, like we pay whatever they tell us to pay. And again, everybody, like Angie says, everybody knows all about MMT and how we can pay for everything for everybody. And then as soon as you mention Black people, MMT doesn't exist. So Yes, we will. It'll get better, hopefully. Well, Edie, you're up next, love bug.
Hello, and can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey
Yes.
there. So thank you for having me back. And I've been on here before, so it feels a little redundant, I think, to say, but I'm from Middle Georgia, and it's the Plantation South. And so I entered elementary school in 1978, 10 years after my district had desegregated our schools. So, and it was a pretty progressive little town considering where we were. And so there were a lot of conversations between us kids throughout my school years, and, especially in the 80s. And I never remember disagreeing with the 40 acres and a mule concept. I feel like I was always on board with that. And so I didn't, so for me as a baseline, my foundation, I just feel like 40 acres and a mule always sounded fair to me. And so then carry on, I went to college and took a African diaspora class, and, just tried to further my education. Excuse me. But as far as having the courage to really say, okay, I'm going to go out and fight for reparations as my activism, it's when I met Sam, or actually, I'm sorry, I forgot, when I saw ADOS in 2019. And I thought, okay, people are fighting for this. There is a group fighting for this. And so that gave me the original courage. And then I met Sam, and really, she helped build my courage even more. And so that's how I came to be in reparations.
Thank you, Edie. Next up, John D.
All right. Yeah, it's cool that Sinead has the like the jazz connection too, because I guess that's what I'm gonna keep coming back to in terms of like I've always really been someone that's just so really into culture. And I guess when I started getting into my music education, you realize, especially with the so-called jazz music, there's this, you really start to see black and white, like specifically black American, white American, the specific divide, like this very specific concept. Like when I started getting into the professional music world, like this thing became really obvious. So I think that foundation is actually maybe not as tangential as one might think. So it's interesting perspective. And I think it's one of those musics that, really represents that. So, we will always get these influences in Hartford from our teachers and stuff like that. And, I think like what Edie said, like that kind of Africana diaspora class was really big in like the 80s, 90s. And that was the big type of jazz that I learned. But yeah, it really, that foundation of like, you always kind of know that there's apartheid in America, and this kind of thing, but especially with jazz music, just the specific issue of Black American culture is so prevalent there. And it became so obvious to me as a musician that it's just like impossible to learn without it, and how important and awesome that thing is. And then you realize that it came on the backs of 400 years of just the worst oppression and kind of human history. And, as you get older, you kind of realize what we export to the world. As I've traveled and see these things, all these styles that people appropriate, all the music that we play, all this food, like everybody has appropriated this great culture. We call it American culture, but this term BAM, I talk about Black American music, is the term that Nicholas Payton made for his, in terms instead of jazz music, which was made by a white person. Basically what we export is this Black culture. And I keep coming to that as like my foundation. That's more of what I'm really into myself. Reparations is this issue that we talk about. And I don't really care too much about the money and the numbers. I'll go into the trillions and quadrillions, 16 quadrillion, whatever, like how to pay for it. For me, I think it's more about atonement. It's more about culture. And it's more about thinking about, imagine if and when this culture is like, not like brought whole, but to produce so much, what it's produced after 400 years of oppressions, it really blows your mind. So most of my music study is just trying to dig into that. It's called like soul, really, in the 70s, like the soul, trying to dig into that soul and trying to get a piece of it. I think that's something that us Americans don't even appreciate. That's why a lot of these musicians had to go overseas. They get all their credit in Europe and Japan. Like I bet at home in Croatia, jazz is more popular there than it is here. So there's this weird thing. So I'm more into studying the culture, Black American culture. It's a specific culture, which I know ADOS is all about. There's a specific culture, specific kind of lineage. So as a musician, that's what it's about for me. And Reparations, just to finish up, it's basically your channel. Your channel got into me. Like Jason, I'm just a lefty that watches a lot of YouTube. I guess you can call me a lefty. Some people call me a center right, far right, left. I don't really know what I am, but I do watch a lot of YouTube. I watch. Yeah, pro justice. There you go. I watch a lot of left. I watch a lot of right. And I found your channel. I really loved it. So reparations as a specific issue, I come at it for atonement. But for me, I just recommend everybody listening, get into some Black culture, Black American culture, as and the music, especially soul, the 70s, Motown period is very fascinating, late 70s. And you can connect. And that's what I'm more about. So yeah, thanks for having me on to talk about this. So pro reparations. Reparations now is the hashtag you'll see on my Twitter.
And John D, you're so going to have to come on a Negro meeting and talk about this. We got a whole nother segment called the Negro meeting. So when we're not bashing the lefties, we actually have conversations. So you can actually come and join it. It won't be like in Rosewood when John Boyd came in and everybody turned around like, we need to talk. Like, you got to go.
Strange bedfellows, politics and this stuff. There's a lot of people get scared at these meetings and these convergences. They call it disinformation, right? They say it's Russian bots. They call it white supremacists. The fact that we're getting together talking about it's people get scared when people want to unite and talk about these things.
Because Black and white people uniting in this country is revolution. Every time it happens, the country gets shooken up. Yeah, like we rock the table.
That's right.
Well, and it's not always that rosy too. That's the other obvious thing. It's the white power, the white, all the terrorism that's happening. It's even like you go back to Occupy Wall Street. There was that tension in the left between white and Black. Even the Bernie bro whole concept is that there's always, as much as we always like to have this white and Black unity that we fetishize often, it's in history. We also have to kind of be honest, right? It's one thing that I wish. We got to get the message out to, as white people here on the panel, allies, and Robin DiAngelo's trying, another good Italian last name. She's trying, but look at the pushback she gets. I don't do this stuff like full time for a podcast, but if I did, I wouldn't get any viewers. I wouldn't get any. If I was the white guy talking about reparations, you're not going to get any viral views. You're going to get it's not one of the hot topics. You talk about Afghanistan, you'll get all the views. You talk about, but it's just not this thing. And I think this fantasy of the white and Black, America is a very divided country. It fucking blows my mind sometimes, especially if my family members going back to school, you take them to these schools, you're like, whoa, okay, this is a white school, this is a Black school, and it's fucking like it sucks. So reparations helps that, to just get people talking about it. But it's hard to just, this is a cool panel here, but you probably had to look at how you had to hack all this crew together. There's 9 of us, right?
This came together very organically.
But trying to put this at scale, it's amazing how fearful people are of it. How much people on the left and the right, how it's in that American society, that soulless.
Well, John, that unpopularity that you were just talking about. When we're done with intros, we should get into that a little bit.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh yeah,
I think
I'm with
that's
that.
the deal. Sure. You're going into the wilderness. We are being on this today. If you're not already here, you're on your way to the wilderness where you will be, rejected by other white people. But you get to another side of it. You get to another side.
And I think before Mud goes, I want to throw in this to what John D was saying. So if you listen to Thomas Kramer, he's German, and when he talks about how he came to be for reparations and got interested in studying reparations and everything else, there's a part where he talks about like the fact that the thing that he liked about what happened in America is, unlike in Germany, there was always people resisting like slavery. There was always people resisting these forms of oppression, white people as well, like resisting with Black people. And that was what he liked about the culture and the history, unlike in Germany, where either they did nothing or they participated. You know what I mean? So I think here, like, we do have a a history of people wanting to fight with us. I think the problem is it goes back to what MLK was saying in Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community. Not enough people get into the fight for that. So he said with the civil rights movement, not enough people got into it. So that's black, white. If you think about it, like, I'm hoping with what we're doing, we can start to create a community. So Yvette and Tone created a community for people who had been sitting around for a while. They had been reading, they had been learning, they had been seeing things, and some had framed it, some hadn't, but there was no community. There was nobody to talk to, like how you guys talk about like my white friends. I can't talk to them about, they don't. Black people go through the same thing with our friends and family too. Oh, you on that reparation, you on that hotep shit. Like some people go through that too, even when we try to talk about the politics. And so we're all experiencing this so the good thing is we are creating a community of people. That's what ADOS was. It was a community of people that got created. We were able to identify who we were. And then from there, we were able to identify each other and create community. And I think that's what more of that is needed. And I want Mud to go into why he's started reparations within me, and then I want to get into that too, because I want to talk about the question that Gabriel had, and then after that I want to talk about Ada, when she was talking about, her and I had a conversation, we were talking about the importance of community. So Mud, go ahead and go, and then I'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so I don't know, I think I've known about reparations for a very long time. I think my earliest memory of it is probably like some school program where they kind of talked about the 40 acres and the mule story. But it kind of, it seemed like, kind of like a fantasy type thing. Because the reality is that, okay, I'm living in a world where everyone around me is struggling, and no one in any form of like official politics is talking about fixing the situation. So it never was like a real thing in my mind during my childhood. And, even though I think that most of us, when we have like the coming of age moment, where we do a lot of studying on Black culture, Black history, to kind of figure out who we are and why things are exactly the way they are. When I had that moment, like I did go back and revisit that 40 acres and a mule thing. And like I got more detailed information about what happened. And it was very clear to me that, it was a valid argument, but I didn't have the political knowledge or the economic knowledge to kind of argue the rest of that point. I think that by the time I got to college, I would have like debates with people about race and things of that nature. And every once in a while, reparations would come up, but no one treated it seriously. In the mix of this, I've seen Dr. Darity on C-SPAN. So it wasn't like, there was always like these breadcrumbs that were leading me back to this position. But there was also, I think, a political reality that a lot of us have faced, where we just don't think America is ready to do anything like this. And we kind of give up on the whole political side altogether. I think that after like my college years, I kind of became like a bootstrapper in a kind of way, because I felt like I didn't have any other option. You leave the bubble of college and you realize, well, no one is going to coddle me anymore. I got to actually figure out a way in this world. And, I tried to, go into the corporate thing. I tried to, start my own business. I did everything that, you're told is the right way to do things, but it didn't quite pan out. Like it was explained to pan out. Like people said it would pan out. And I couldn't really figure out, I had no clue why that was the situation. I didn't understand why I'm working a job and making the same money that my white counterpart is making, but they're buying their first home within a couple of years of this job. And I don't even see that as a possibility, at that time period. So I knew something was up, but I was still like, well, I just got to put my head down and just work through this thing. As far as this new political wave, honestly, I would have to say it started with Boyce Watkins.
I was watching Boyce. That's how that started for me. After Hidden Colors got me in, and then Boyce keep going.
Yeah, Hidden Colors. Yeah, that was another thing. But I was a little bit older, so I kind of saw like the Pan-African wave of like the late 80s, early 90s, and kind of saw how that kind of died down. But I still remember, that message and that feeling. So Hidden Colors, it wasn't like a great, awakening moment for me, but I did appreciate it. Boyce Watkins was tapping into that bootstrapper mentality for me. And he was giving me, the hope and aspirations to believe that I can, all I have to do is figure out financial literacy and I can change everything around for my family if I buy one stock of
$200 stock.
Yeah, in 20 years I could be a millionaire or some goofy shit. But through him, I kind of got into the ADOS movement because Yvette Carnell exposed, some of his underhanded stuff, and I was caught up in that, and then I started watching her program, and at first I didn't know how to digest the message because I was, bootstrapper and Pan-Africanist in my thought. So, it didn't sound right to me, but it was so intriguing that I couldn't turn away from it. And then when I found out about Tone and the data, and like he just broke down all the economics of it, like there was nothing I could disagree with because I lived it. Like I knew exactly what he was talking about. We aren't in the position to succeed in this country. It is not a meritocracy for us. And coming to grips with that, that ultimately made me see that reparations is probably the only answer. It's the only thing that is going to lift us up from the bottom and allow us to actually integrate into the society in some way. Now, as far as changing people's hearts and minds, we talk about this all the time. Like, I don't necessarily know if that's going to be something that could be accomplished in my lifetime. But for us to just have the resources to not be impoverished, that would change so much for us. I don't understand, well, I do understand a lot of the pushback we get in regards to this, but when the argument is fully laid out, there really is not a position to take against reparations, other than just you don't want Black Americans to have better lives. That's the only position you could take against reparations. I've looked at this thing thoroughly, and I don't see any holes in the argument. So,
and I think it's even deeper than that. I think it's like you're willing to sacrifice your own success rather than have Black Americans succeed. It's not even like I don't want this group of people to get this something. It's like I'll even sacrifice a little bit of mine to prevent these people from getting something. And that's, you've got to really reflect on that. So the challenge, in a sense, I think you're right, Mud, that it's like, are we going to are people going to have a transformational moment where they see the light and whatever? In one way, it's hard to envision that. On the other hand, this is a pathology. So to get to the point where you recognize not just that reparations make sense, but to reflect on why you fought so hard against them, why it made you angry when somebody said, well, this is actually, I can show you the documentation where this money is owed. We can show you several examples of how we pay this money back. And you're getting red in the face, fighting people you don't even know about how, my Irish ancestors were slaves and woo, and whatever other excuse you come up with. You have a sickness. And so then the next question is, do you want to get well? Do you want to get well?
Good.
And
that's so good.
I think that's the thing that could cause the transformation. It's like, my brother, you're sick, and we're trying to help you. This isn't about whether or not we're writing this check. It's going to get written. It's like, if nothing else, we'll just wait for enough white people to die, and the demographics will make it happen. The question is, do you want to be healthy in your mind, body, and spirit in your lifetime and hand down to your children a legacy of working with other people in a positive way, or do you want to hand down hate?
Left Wing Watch is going to quote that and say you're promoting white genocide, Gabriel. So they're going to
bring it on. I've been fighting
demographic change. That's it. You're done.
People. Did y'all see the NPR thing? Like, people's white grannies was changing themselves to like non-white because they did like a 23andMe. So no, people are wilding out on what they're marking on the census. They done jumbled the census all up, being stupid. Whatever. Everybody wants to be exotical.
Right.
Right. So let me go real quick because mine isn't that long. Like, me and Mud have a lot of similarities in our story. So for me, I got really heavy into like reading when I was like 26. So was that like 2012-ish, 2012? Yeah. Like 2012, I got really heavy into reading. I was watching a lot of documentaries. I was watching a lot of stuff on YouTube. So that's when I kind of fell into the Pan-Africanist stuff. And then I also, the John Henry Clarks and a lot of the Black historical teachers. So I went down that rabbit hole. And then I found Boyce a couple years later, and I was on my bootstraps too. I was getting my bootstraps ready, especially because, like, for me, like, I still had a little bit of privilege. So I was like, I still can kind of move around a little bit. At that time, I had moved in my house. I was still living with my family, but I didn't really have a lot of bills. And if I needed something, it was accessible to me, like, financially. So I was like, okay, I can still do this. Like, I have a chance. And then Boyce was watching him, and then Boyce and Yvette got together. Then Yvette and Irony, I followed them. So I already knew like the history because I was a big history buff. I was reading 60 books a year. So I think one of my friends, my really good friend, she couldn't be here today because she had something to do, but at some point she'll join us. She's first generation Ghanaian American. So I had taken her from like slavery to mass incarceration in like 2013. So I had already had like a lot of the framework, but I didn't have the data, and I didn't have I didn't have the language, and I didn't have the language for us. So I got that from Tone and Yvette. And what I got that was invaluable from Tone and Yvette is the community. Because there's a lot of people now that I still talk to. Everybody on this, like for the people who are on the original Reset Race crew, like, that's all from Yvette and Tone. We all come one way or another. We learned something. We were following the movement in a chapter, thinking about being in a chapter, or trying to do something. Like, it all came from that community because we saw each other. We're like, okay, we have, like, my family may be like, shut up, but we can have a Zoom, or we can get on Twitter and I can talk to my other family and I'm okay because I got people who understand. And we built a whole community. And so what brought me to reparations is I had all of that, but I didn't have reparations. So I got reparations from Tony Yvette, which I know, oh my God, hashtag ADOSAF, and BL will love that. Because she's just like, Sam was a part of ADOS. She learned a lot from Yvette and Tone. she just said Yvette, she ignored Tone. But the thing about it is nobody is trying to say that we didn't learn. Like, if you are a person who is intelligent, if you're a person who's intelligent, if you're a person who has read a lot, if you're a person who's researched, if you're growing and getting better, you should have learned from all of the different people that you've read and watched. And like, so I give them credit, and I give a lot of other people credit as well. I give James Baldwin credit. I give Malcolm X credit. I give Martin Luther King credit. Like, you know, we can go through the list of videos of people that we've been watching for years. I give John Henry Clark credit. I give, you know what I mean? Like, I can just go and go. I even give Tariq Nasheed credit, because for me, Tariq Nasheed piqued my interest on the Black shit. Because before then, like, I was kind of moving through my life. I was Black and I was dealing with it. But again, I come from a little more privileged background. So a lot of times, like, I wasn't forced to work until I was damn near 30. So it's not like I was going to work. Like, I had jobs before then, but it's not like I was forced to work. So I wasn't like forced to go into systems and be discriminated against. And when I was, or deal with that, I could just quit and be like, fuck, like, I don't have to do this shit. So it was easy for me to kind of pop in and pop out. When I finally had to really be in it, like I said, they made it real for me. It was like, okay, you can bootstrap. Well, let's say you make it, but you have all your other friends around here, and they don't have the extra hand that you have for those bootstraps to work. So I was like, okay, well, if I make it and they don't, that's not good. Like, I got to work towards helping my family. Like, I want to see the people around me be able to have a good life too, without me having to become like a super person who makes millions of dollars a year and can take care of their friends. Like, that's insane. Like, no, you should just want to live in a world where, like, your friends and family, you know, have enough to have a good life. So yes, I came to Reparations from Yvette and Tone. I've been here ever since, and I'm never moving from it. So thank you, Yvette and Tone, for the work that you did in showing that we had a community. And I will forever be appreciative of it. And we will never try to erase you from what you built and brought together and created, because all of us respect it. So now we're going to move on to, what were you saying? You're saying it unpopular, Gabriel? We were going to talk about, like.
Yeah, well, okay. So maybe we could go back to some of the what Mud was talking about too. What we could, you know, one way, maybe a less controversial way to think about it, not because I'm unwilling to be controversial, but because that's not why that's not the point of me being here. I think the point of us having conversation is what is next for us, right? I think, Sam, you said that before, like, this is the point of all of this, is to think about what's next. In my mind, we've got kind of two different things going on. One is just math, it's politics. Mm-hmm. And I think the math is actually pretty good for us right now. We've got pretty good polling, with a fair number of white people saying that they think reparations is owed and that they would support reparations. It's not a huge number, but we don't need a huge number. Slavery did not have a whole bunch of people. I mean, you could go down, I'm not going to go down the list, but that's not how government works. It's certainly not in America. What you need is somebody we can trust. You need a Black LBJ in Congress who said, I'm down for reparations till I die. And that's all that person's about. And they're in the face of every other person, and they're working day and night for it. You need that. And you need some numbers. You need some people in each of a certain number of districts that are willing to make the phone call, so that when Reset Race gets on the air and says, we need you to make those calls, this is going into committee, there are enough people that say, I'm picking up my phone and I'm sending that email and I'm doing whatever else I have to do. It's that part is not abstraction to me. Then there's the question of building community. And I do, you know, I mourn Yvette and Tone. I don't so much say I appreciate what they've done for me or whatever. I appreciated the space that they were in. I always said what they're doing is great, but the chapters is what matters about it. That was how I felt about it. It was the life on the ground, because if the people aren't there, it doesn't matter what you're doing on YouTube. And so to me, it was always about the chapters. So I think that's the other thing. You need chapters all over the country doing the good work and doing it in a connected way. So when you're talking to people about reparations, you can also say, come with me down here. These people are doing some really interesting work and I want you to check it out or whatever. And I think those are the two. When I think of what's next, those are the two elements. Notice neither one of those is really a lot about social media. I think there was a moment when a lot of that was. We needed it, right? I think I needed it to connect to you guys. I needed it to get educated, oriented, and have those relationships. And we need virtual, we need internet connection, but do we really need to? I don't know. Maybe Sam's right that the next step is to start to talk about being on Mastodon or Diaspora or, and maybe there are only 10,000 of us. That could be enough.
But 10,000 people who are on the same mission is an army. And it's not like people are going to give up their own social medias. They'll just know that they have a safe space to just come and share information and talk. Because I know for me, Twitter was mentally exhausting during that period of time because we were at war.
Yes, we were.
And I have never been called a nigger so much in my life. And that was from white leftists.
Yeah.
So it was a lot. So it would be nice to have like a place that people could just go and organize. And so, Gabriel, I'm with you on the chapters, but I want tweaks because I'm with IRME. You have to have multiple types of institutions. So yes, I think some people who are interested in forming political chapters should, but I think most of the chapters, like I would say 95%, need to be built around mutual aid.
Agreed. Those are separate to me. The politics isn't the same as the chapters. The chapters should be whatever local people, but talk about mutual aid. Yeah,
no, that's what I'm just saying. I'm just saying because when I read My Face is Black is True, where they go over Callie House, the very first reparationist, when she was going around the country petitioning for slave pensions. So she was able to organize over 300,000 formerly enslaved people on trains. And how she was able to keep them together was through the mutual aid. And those people later on went into the Garvey movement. So like without Callie House, there is no Garvey movement because she already had her people set up and primed for that. So that's my thing. Because for me, it's just like, we do all this, right? Like I can talk about the history. I can talk about all this stuff till I'm blue in the face. But like, if you're hungry or your kid's hungry, like, do you really want to listen to me? But if we have a space that you can come and get access to things that you need, and then I might sit and talk with you for a little bit. What else? I'm already here.
Right.
But if you're just coming at me to knock on my door and offer me nothing but your words, sometimes I don't have time for your words. So that's the thing. I don't have all the answers. I haven't started this yet. I definitely would like for people who are interested in getting in mutual aid to first look into places that are doing mutual aid where you live. Because I think a lot of times we like to just start stuff, but we don't know anything about it. Go work with some people for a couple of months, see what they're doing. And then if you think you could start and build something, then build your own. Or if you feel like you could incorporate yourself into theirs, then do that. But we got to start thinking from multiple directions.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that's right.
I didn't know that Callie House also got the criticism of like being aligned with the white supremacists too. Thomas Kramer went over that. He gave this kind of Clubhouse podcast, and he was going through like the history of the reparations movement. And apparently, Callie House got the same criticism of ADOS that you're just. Because there were a few, like, I guess, like plantation owners that were for it because of the supposed economic argument. And people would cherry pick these couple, you have a bunch of XYZ for you. So it's like a white supremacist thing. So it was interesting that Thomas Kramer was going through that history, that even Callie House, that specific idea of, you're this nativist white supremacist thing, it seems like an attractive criticism, but it seems like a very faulty criticism. But the fact that it started with Callie House, I don't know if it's from that book, but I'm trying to find the source of that because he just said it offhand on the podcast. So maybe if anybody's listening, there's apparently some sources about that specific criticism of Callie House.
It might have been in the book. It's because the book, it's a good book. There's a lot of meat in there. I gotta reread
That's
it.
a pretty dirty slander. I mean, it doesn't get dirtier than that, right? I mean, I don't know what you feel about that, but that's
especially for her to be like a person who was just formerly enslaved. So to be accused of like, palling up with white
kind of collaborating with the kind of
that was
the vibe of it. It was like, wow. So that's must be part of it. And that's now there's a Harvard paper about that same idea. That's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, you know, you've got to, this requires, God, this is thick skin. Doing this is that you've got to have thick skin, because people don't even realize how much they hate the idea. They don't know why they hate the idea, but they're going to stop talking to you. You're going to get messages that are like, look, I just want to help you out. You're starting to hang out with these reparationists. You really shouldn't. And then I've lost clients. I've lost friends. I've lost everything. It doesn't matter, because when you get through it on the other side, you're going to be fine. And none of that is going to make any sense. Literally, it's not reality. People are telling you that they're in a space of kind of confusion and pain. They're like, you're saying stuff that's upsetting me. That's basically what they're saying when they're like, you shouldn't do that anymore. But you know, I was talking to a younger friend of mine who is in social justice work. I'm getting him here, but he's not here yet. Reparations specifically. But some real wisdom that he shared with me that we should all be talking about is we need more healing spaces in between spaces where we do the work. So, you know, as we're doing this stuff, as we're on social media, when we start being face to face again, you know, we're constantly encountering people that we have to just withstand so much. And especially if you have the courage to bring this to your family and your loved ones and all, you're going to really have some spaces that are going to be painful. Getting ready for that, you know, the month before Thanksgiving, if you're going to lay reparations on your family at Thanksgiving, or after the fact, when you just, you know, somebody is like, you're an idiot and you're this and you're that and woo, woo, woo. And that stuff hurts. I mean, you can get tough and whatever, but you also should have a space where you can go to folks and be like, wow, you know, this thing, I really kind of went through me. And also to kind of develop strategies together and stuff like that. But it's hard. People, this is it. In my opinion, this is it. This is not one of the social justice movements of the time. This isn't something we can be doing that's like, you know, leave the world a better place or whatever. Nothing before this. To me, Ida, even when you talk about something like the Green New Deal, this is my philosophy. You can't cure the planet if America won't go along with you. And if we still hate each other, we're not going along with you. Because if you hate people, how are you going to love a planet? And as long as we have racism, we're not going to love each other. That's the math.
Exactly. And I'm listening to and thinking, you know, my kind of the way I've, after Tim's I don't know what to call it, but after his epic video, I'm thinking, you know, the deeper problem is that we, you know, humans in general are terrified of being vulnerable. We don't let ourselves be open and vulnerable. And, you know, our main, you know, the ego is driven by, I'm right, damn it, and you're wrong, I'm right. You know, we have to, this need to be always right is killing us. You know, to just be able to like shut up and listen and be vulnerable, I think is the beginning. We can't, you know, we can't really move anywhere without a deeper, you know, a willingness to completely open and take, you know, whatever it is, the truth, right? The truth is so scary to most. I mean, to all of us. It's the deeper inner work is all about facing the truth and really bearing the miasma of, you know, the ego dying when there's light shining upon it. So I am trying to, I mean, I've been, you know, for years I've been trying to balance try to find the balance between an inner work and the activism, because, you know, all this activism is for nothing unless we approach it from this deeper place, a more awakened, evolved, psychologically evolved place. So I feel that racism and all these, what you call it, did you say pathology, Gabriel? Something, yeah. So, these kind of things, it's all ego, and it's, if you shine the light of truth on it, it kind of melts away. But it takes serious work and willingness to face it, and most people are not willing to. And this is the kind of deeper overall problem. And then, like reading now about specifically reparations and the history and all that, I'm discovering, I'm learning about white America because I'm European. I didn't grow up with all these weird pathologies.
Can I
You got your own.
interject? May I interject?
Yeah.
Okay, so a couple of points I have from our discussion so far is I don't believe that we can end racism. We currently have a whole bunch of people willing to put their children in school without masks, without vaccines, to make a political point.
Right.
And so I would love to end racism. That never going to happen unless, COVID, wipes out more people than we think is going to. I don't know. And so that's my first point. Mastodon, something like that, I think is really important for building a mass movement that we would need to have reparations, is so that people can connect with each other, especially, you just got to have your people together. And that's how you get your votes in Congress, because we need, and which leads to another point, is currently a minority runs this country and has for 20 years at least. So a minority can do big things. You just need your minority to thoroughly believe in what they're doing and to be willing to make calls to their Congress people. In the same way that when Parkland, a Parkland happens and children are shot in their elementary school, that your Facebook friend who generally has a Bible scripture in the first thing in the morning on their Facebook page, all of a sudden Parkland comes up and voila, they got their little pink gun, and they're showing pictures of that, saying how they'll be calling their congressperson to make sure that their gun laws are not changed. So you've got people who don't even understand what they're supposed to be about, going to church every week,
right?
Supposedly following the Bible, who are now who are supposedly for the police department, police aren't even for themselves right now. You see so many people dying, so many policemen dying of COVID right now. But generally team players like policemen and policemen and coaches, you see them dying of COVID left and right, team players, but they're also evidently Trumpers and racist. And I'm sorry, for me, those two are intertwined. You can't so they got their people calling. The people who are Trumpers now are the people who have evolved from the Tea Party and had there's a minority of people calling their Congress people all of the time. And that's what we need. And to do that, you have to have some sort of networking. Slack is what Elizabeth Warren and Bernie had. I'm not sure which other presidential candidates did that, but you got to have your people where you can mobilize them, and you have to have things for them to mobilize to do. And definitely, I believe in the mutual aid. So, but racism ending is not going to happen. I haven't talked to my parents in 3 years. They know that part of it is because I believe they're racist and right-wingers. And have they done anything to change themselves? No, they don't want to change, and they're not going to, because their fundamental values are what they are, and we will never change those. They will put their babies on the line. They will put themselves on the line.
They'll throw their white women away. Yep.
And they will sit in a hospital and say, well, I'm kind of a libertarian. I'm for freedom. And that's why I didn't get my shot.
Libertarians.
Okay.
Right.
So
Make me laugh
like,
hard.
and then they'll tell you it's not even about politics.
Right.
So people have a completely they're uneducated. We haven't, especially if you're from the South, you are not taught critical thinking. My husband deals with it with me all the time, in that
You have told me that.
I see things in black and white and gray. That's how it is, and it is or it isn't. Now I'm definitely better on critical thinking. I read a lot, what have you, I think, but that was not taught to us. You're taught to believe in the Bible and follow God. You're taught to believe in your teachers, and up until now, evidently. And you're supposed to respect authority. That's how it generally was in the past. Now they are willing to turn all of that stuff upside down on its head.
It's nonsensical. They're irrational people.
Right.
It's
to
completely
line
irrational.
themselves up to die for their political causes,
To own the libs.
regardless of what they say. So we are not going to get these people to go against racism. No way, no how, never.
I mean, look how they responded
Edie-
to critical race theory. Look at how they've responded to
Right.
critical race theory. And we think
That's
we're
right.
going to actually convince them to pay money to black people? I mean,
Yeah. No, you've got
this is,
But it's
I
also
going to take a minute.
important
It's
to
going to take a
remember.
minute, but
It's also
Yeah.
important to remember that they are a minority. A minority of people right now believe that we should not have mask mandates. And yet that is what is happening in these different states. A minority of people that believe that we should not have mask mandates. And yet schools in Georgia do not have mask mandates.
yeah.
So I'm sorry, I'll stop yelling over y'all. Go
So
ahead.
Edie, I
you're
just
fine.
wanted to stress that I'm not equating a deep inner work with religion. It's quite the opposite. Religion.
Oh, I wasn't addressing you at all.
Oh, okay.
no.
No, because
No, I wasn't.
I grew up with, religion is the opiate for the masses, kind of, that was
Oh, yeah, I'm not-
inculcated in me. And
I was
also,
addressing
yeah.
what we're having in general for,
Yeah.
religion is a basis for how to control Southerners.
Yeah,
So,
but what I mean, we need to kind of get away from religion, which is the religions that we are talking about here kind of have this salvation, the idea of salvation coming from somewhere outside. But what we really need to do is take our personal responsibility for throttling our ego and evolving, to come closer to living from our essence as human beings. And this is really hard work, and nobody wants to do it. So, I mean, I'm talking
right.
about
I bring
years.
up religion amongst
Yeah.
my people, but I'm not out there on my Facebook page because I have religious Black people that I grew up with that I'm trying to pull into reparations as well. So I don't speak up against religion up in the public forums because I don't want to scare away good Christians. I don't know how to say that. People who actually follow the teachings of Jesus. And so I don't believe in kicking people because of their religion, but it is a problem.
Yeah, I'm just saying
Right.
that what I was talking about is kind of like a deep organic religion, if you want, not a religion from above. And
Got you. So the one that comes from
Yeah.
within. Am I saying that? Was that the voice who was like, I kept praying for my freedom, but when I started using my feet, my prayers were answered? Just saying. I think that's how was that him or is that somebody else? But I've heard that before.
That's what they're saying though.
Well, Sam and I talked about this.
Hold on, let me see. Mud, you got anything? You've been quiet for a little bit. You can go after him. Mud's been a little quiet. And then I want to see if Jason has anything because he's been a little quiet. Jason and John have been a little quiet. Josiah's been a little quiet. I want to move around a little bit. So Mud, you got anything for me?
I mean, not really. I understand the frustration. Especially if we're talking about the South. The South is a completely different animal. I don't even know what to say about the South because on one hand, like, I almost feel like the South has more integration than other places, but still it's like the animosity is so prevalent, but it's still hidden. It's weird. because it's not like it's out there in your face all the times, like people being aggressive towards you, but you'll still see like a Confederate flag like everywhere. And it's almost like, I don't know how to describe it, honestly. I think I'm just rambling, so I'm going to let someone else talk.
Can I just say, they're still able to follow the same old rules in the South.
Mm-hmm.
How about you say that way? Do
Can you
agree with
elaborate
that?
a little bit on that, Edie, for people who don't know what that is? Like,
Well, it's
some of
just
that.
what Mud was saying. You know, it's still okay to have your St. Andrew's cross in your front yard. It's still okay. I mean, your Black contemporary friend or classmate, let's see, how do I say this? I know someone that I grew up with, and her son and she's white, and a Black friend go places and do things, and I've seen the Black mom post, "Thank you, Miss So-and-so." Well, I know my white friend doesn't call the Black mom Miss So-and-so. So the old rules are still set up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And it's kind of a thing where what's known doesn't have to be said. It's so baked into the whole culture that you don't even need to have those arguments about it. Everybody understands where everybody is in the hierarchy.
That is so true. That is so true.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Jason, you got anything?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of stuff I was going to say, but I didn't want to talk over anybody.
No, I know. I know. There's a lot of us. So.
Yeah, so I didn't want to cover it. I mean, I'm just going to cut to the chase. I mean, like I said, I'm a DSA member, relatively new, but I am looking to get on the Racial Solidarity Committee here in East Bay. So I'm going to look to kind of use the DSA to help, amplify the message. I'm not sure if people are aware. I did show MG this yesterday, a couple days ago on Twitter, that the DSA did pass a resolution for a national committee on reparations for Black people. So it is a thing. I mean, the left is talking about it. So I think it's just a matter of people actually amplifying the message. So that's going to be kind of my goal going forward with the DSA. And then I'm here to actually learn from you guys, because I mean, I'm not well versed on all of this stuff, but I am pretty well versed in socialist thought and praxis and all that stuff. So I mean,
you can fill us in on that. We need that.
I'm also a big, huge politics frog. I'm on Twitter or Twitch all the time. I watch, different streamers. So, I'm really up to date on a lot of the news, news and so on and so forth. So I might be terminally online. That's probably my problem. But anyway, I'm here to help, and I will try to help by being a conduit between this and the DSA.
Jason, I'm also at the East Bay DSA.
Are you? Okay, I'm relatively new, about 6 months. I've just started attending, meetings and so on and so forth. I am interested in the internationalist aspect that they've just created. They've agreed to start working with international leftist groups, which is great. I think that was really something that, and then when I saw this reparations committee being formed, I was super hyped about that. So kind of made me a little bit more interested in just than just paying my dues every time, every month or whatever the case is. So it was I think a convergence of things happened here. So like I told Sam, I do have aspirations possibly of getting into politics. So we'll see. So
I've noticed there's a dearth of Black people in the East Bay DSA, and it's been kind of an issue for a long time.
No, I know, I've heard,
And my first meeting there was when Kat Brooks stormed in, and it was a memorable meeting. I ran out and hugged her. It was it kind of pointed to a problem on.
I've heard that there's some problems there for sure. And I think that it's just ignorance. I think it just comes down to ignorance personally. I think that people are just unaware. And the more they know, and like you said, they see the numbers and it's laid out bare to them. And I think people will come around. But like Edie said, we're not going to convince the people that think that CRT is the basis for all Marxist theory. You know what I'm saying? Like that we're not like working with the Boogaloo Boys. I may be too internet on this right now, but you understand what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of stuff there that, you know, there's people that are leftists that say this is the best path forward. And I really don't think that we should be listening to a lot of those people. But yeah, I just think that I think that the DSA is a good vehicle for that. Now, obviously, I'm not as jaded as other people because I haven't been around for a long time. But I think that it has the numbers and it has the resolution. And I think in our instance here, I think that it's useful. And I think that like I said, it's convergence. And I think that right place, right time for me, I think in regards to that. So
I'm skeptical, but I want to talk about that later.
Yeah.
Some more people who haven't talked.
John D.
Yeah, no, really cool discussion. Yeah, so the Mud mentioned something really intriguing about the South, that it's like kind of, we're do a little South bashing before, it was kind of fun, but that it was more integrated, and that it's fascinating because it reminded me, my buddy Omari from Baltimore, he came up to visit Boston for a little bit, and you know, up here in the Northeast, we will say something like the Puerto Rican neighborhood, the Italian neighborhood, the Polish neighborhood, and Omari heard that phrase and he's like, oh, what does that even mean? So there's this weird integration, segregation divide in the North that a lot of people don't really like to talk about as well. And this guy, Omari, and I were just talking about how, like, yeah, you know, the South is not exactly what, you know, what you might think of it, you know, in certain ways. And, you know, the North, you guys have an Italian neighborhood. What does that even mean? So it's just like his reaction was like kind of bewildered about that. So like every state in America, every kind of region, we have these things, and there's been a quote unquote riot in almost every big city in every state. Like we have this history of these quote unquote, you know, race relations. And I think how Howard Zinn approaches it, as we kind of like bash the South and stuff, is that us Americans, we like this myth, this historical exceptionalism. You know, we choose our heroes deliberately, this kind of Robert E. Lee worship, you know, the Confederate statues, that stuff came kind of after. But Howard Zinn's idea is like, instead of shaming these areas and stuff, like give them better heroes, you know, different icons, you know, different people to think of. And I was fascinated in the South that there were these radical abolitionists, you know, like, you know, people make fun of this red brown alliance thing, but there was that Black Panther Young Patriots thing where they had the boys with the Confederate flags that they couldn't eat, they couldn't feed themselves, but after they started feeding themselves, then they dropped the Confederate flag. So I think someone mentioned that. So the idea of the deprogramming of the Southern racists and kind of using them is an interesting part of history. And like Howard Zinn, or kind of a critical race theory, if we want to talk about it in an actual positive way, not in a caricature, what critical race theory would try to use would say that for the South, you know, for the Northeast, for wherever you are, there's a lot of heroes that we can look to. And the South just has actually a pretty profound history that I'm starting to dig into just now. Like there's rural revolutionaries and things like that in the South. You know, they used to, even in West Virginia, there was this whole town that they started using the Black Panthers 10-point program. Like I didn't even know that they started their own town, that they started feeding all the poor white people based on the Black Panthers 10-point program. And some people say, oh, these kids were CIA. I'm like, well, what the fuck? I don't know. I'll read about it. But I think with the South, it's very easy for us to caricature in the North, and it's very easy. And obviously, you know, sometimes some of the overt racism is oof, but sometimes one wonders the other history there that's been buried, you know, this kind of Robert E. Lee lost cause stuff that we're being fed. I wonder if our own legacy, our jazz music or Black music in the Northeast, you know, we're being robbed of our history, and we're being robbed of unity, you know, and these are the poor people that were unified. And a lot of the elite historians, you know, the court historians that write our textbooks and sell our books to us, they sell a very intriguing narrative. So I'm learning more about the South. I'm not coming off as defending the South there, but just Mud's point was really interesting there about how, you know, it's actually, it feels a little more integrated in the South, if that long rant made any sense. So yeah.
I can
You know,
give y'all another quick example of the South. Like when you mentioned the lost cause theory, like, or lost cause message, pushing the lost cause. You know, I still have Dixie go through my head. I'm 48 years old. You know, Dixie pops in my head. And I haven't lived in the South in 20 years. Like this stuff is taught to us. It's put into us from the very beginning. Like, you know, there, and, you know, we have the statues of the soldier on the Confederate soldier is still on our courthouse square, you know. So, yeah, just that example. Sorry, I lingered too long on that.
Well, I just want to say this. When I talked about integration, I wasn't just also talking about I wasn't just talking about how like where people live and all that. I think that what I've noticed, like cities generally try to hide like their Black population. They try to you know, kind of put us in a corner. Whereas in the South, there's it's kind of weird. It's like a cultural exchange that is still happening. Like I don't know, there's not that much distance between us and white people in that regard, but there's still I don't know, a clear, like the hierarchies are still clear. Like it's very defined. It's just that I don't think that there is an effort for Southerners to act as if we don't exist. Like, I don't know. Maybe I should shut up and let someone else talk.
Now, I think I see what you're saying. Like, it's like the social hierarchy is like more prevalent down there. Does that make sense? Anybody?
Yeah, I mean, it is, but it's it's clearly defined.
Yeah.
Whereas
it's based up in the North, it's based on where you actually live. Because like if you live in like the inner city, like you pretty much, you don't have a say so in whether or not you're going to interact with Black Americans. Whereas, you know, if you live in one of those white flight towns, you know, you don't have any type of interaction with Black people. Like Black people can't afford to be out here. And if they are, I'm calling the police.
Wow. Yeah.
All right, anybody else? Sorry, my internet connection has been insane.
You know what the best, no, Sam, one last thing. The best part of being on the reparations team is that these conversations, people have these conversations all the time in all ages. The best part of the reparations is conversation is that there's always that, I don't know if positive is the right word. There's always that redemption. You know, there's always a policy that we have to hold on to. Okay, everybody's learning about systemic racism. This is the wave now. You know, Black people have been living this for 400 years. You know, the Robin DiAngelo is educating everybody with her new books. We're trying to get the stubborn Karens are still out there, but we're trying. But this, the best part about reparations is that, you know, at least we have a policy to hold on. Okay, we're learning about systemic racism. Here's what we can do about it. Whether you hand them Dr. Darity's book or we hand them the channel, you know, here's how, you know, everybody talks about poverty in the inner cities. Reparations. I talk about the music industry. Reparations. I talk about housing. And it's not even the check. It's right. It's not. It's the scales, this caste system we talk about. You know, all the scholars in India that write about the caste system, you got to do it politically, you got to do it economically. You know, you have to do it economically. So it's not just the check, it's just that balancing of the scale. You know, yeah, the conversations definitely end up, when you get into the history, depressing and, oh, you know, the reality of the conversation. But at least with reparations, what I like is that, you know, you learn about these things, but then you also have the, you know, the atonement at the end of it. You know, and Dr. Darity's book is structured like that too. It's that all that brutal history, all that real history, and then here's the plan. So I don't know any other person on the left. Everybody loves charging 5 figures to talk about these things and teaching us white people about our racism and these new curriculums and everything. But the quote unquote solution is really only found in the reparations crowd. That's what I think is very redeeming. Everybody likes to wallow in the pity of our history, and man, it's just, even just pulling out of this recent war, just to be an American, just really, you sit back and you almost want, you have this sickness, this disgust, this soulless feeling. But then at least with reparations, we have a plan, we have a positive perspective and a historical basis. And I think that's great. And I don't want it to be all negative. I bring up these history, but that's why I like this crowd, is that at least we have that,
Mhm.
and it's real. We got something in the house, there's something there, whether you like bourgeois politics or not, we got something, at least there's something there. So there's something real to happen. So that's my last thought.
Anybody got any? Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to add, it's not just the Karens. I think there is a Karen in each one of us. And
Sorry,
kind
my
of,
bad, stereotype.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's just I think we all know this stuff goes a lot deeper, and we each harbor plenty of, are we willing to catch ourselves in the thought that leads in a direction that's distasteful? Are we able to catch ourselves? This is, I think, a lot of what the deeper work on this entails, like really observing ourselves in action every day, watching our thoughts and our emotions erupt over something, and then really tasting all that and feeling a kind of a remorse, and then growing from it. I spent so much, like the past 6 years or 5 years, whatever, in this hyper activist mode. And at the end of the day, I'm like, we can't move anywhere until we deal with this inner stuff. It's nothing will change until we change. So just mentioning that, this morning I woke up thinking of a friend of mine here in Berkeley. She lives around, we went to college together in New York, and she's German, and she's a therapist, and she does like visual art, helping, I forget what it's called, visual art therapist or something like that. And so she was part of this thing called Body Tales here in Berkeley, where through movement and music, people explore their various traumas and try healing from it. And so she's German, and she presented, I went to see her perform. She did like with her body and voice and dance. She was going through her, how shall I say, the pain of the Nazi Germany, and what effect it had on people, on like them, all the Germans basically. And she was working through that. And that was the only time ever in that performance that I saw like a white American really on a very deep and honest level kind of deal with the pain. This woman experienced pain from her family having owned slaves. So she was coming to terms with that history through this Body Tales movement, which I thought was a very interesting, it was a deep and profound and honest, really, way to tackle all this baggage, as we like to call it.
I think those feelings, I think, are super important, and it is important for us to process. I think it's at best our second priority in the space of reparations. We have a lot of pain, and we have to carry and deal with all of that after we do our work. It's kind of like an after hours, in my view. Some people will say you can't get to the point where you're a strong ally until you process that stuff, but I think that's another reason not to do the work itself. I think that it's important for us to talk about and feel that we can be that we're in an accepting and safe space when we talk about it. At the same time, I want to know if there are enough people in my congressional district that that will make calls to my senator to get that bill passed, to get that check cut. Like, to me, that's all here. And, it's not like it's not like a forget your feelings moment. I'm not saying that.
Right.
But it's, at the same time, it's we have to be very careful as white people that we don't create a whole movement to talk about how we have hurt feelings about how we are so racist. Because we will create foundations, we will get grants from the National Endowment for the Arts for $100 million to do performances at the Met about how we feel bad. It'll become a whole industry, and we still won't have reparations.
Right. That's not what I meant. But yeah,
I know.
I can see the danger of that. Yeah.
We've always got to strike that balance.
Yeah.
But I hear you, and I think it's great that there are people doing that. It feels like you're in a community where that's more likely to happen than other places.
Well, Barbara Lee is my congressperson, so. Sam,
I
you're
can't hear
muted.
you, Sam.
I said you got Barbara Lee.
Mhm.
At least she had a decent bill. It wasn't a reparations bill, but it checked a lot of boxes. But we missed the ball on that one in the last house. But I forgot what it was called. It was pretty interesting. Edie, I saw you said you had to go.
Oh, it's hard for me. As far as the bills go, we got to get down on those bills and call people. And that's the goal, is just get this stuff through legislation. That's the goal. Get the stuff through legislation. Get the bills passed.
Yeah,
we just got to get enough people. And so,
and that's what it boils down to, the people. Go ahead.
Yeah. Because we do, look, it's hard. We have people marching for voting rights yesterday. We already had the Voting Rights Act 55 years ago. And the reason we can't get this Voting Rights Act passed is because of 2 Democratic senators who won't change the filibuster or get rid of the filibuster. So here we are. We are begging 2 Democrats with a big ass march in Washington, D.C. this weekend. It's just every little thing is so hard. And so we just have to make sure that we are building a database of people that will call for people. That's what we have to do. Nothing else matters. That's what the DNC fights for every election. They want the candidates' phone banking stats. They want all of their phone bank. They wanted Bernie's phone banking database so bad they couldn't stand themselves. And so that's what it's all about. We get our database, we get our people, and we get ready for the next time an HR 40 comes up. That's what we have to do.
Amen.
So I hope we can get on Mastodon. Are we going to get on Mastodon? Are we going to?
It's on our list. It's on our list of things to do, Edie. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that.
I get hyped up.
We'll talk about that not in a show atmosphere. We'll talk about that.
Okay. I don't even drink coffee, y'all.
You're so funny. But
okay, I am going to leave though. I have to.
Okay, go. Edie. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you. It was so nice to see y'all. Take care.
Bye. Tell Tom I said hi.
I will.
All righty. Okay. So before we get too far into the weeds, this was all really good, and I really enjoyed having everybody.
Before, can I ask Ida and John a question after we talk about our schedules? It's topic adjacent.
No worries. It's fine. No, we're good though, right? This is that's fine, right? So we can just do this again next week, and then next Sunday we'll see what everybody's looking like the week after. Because I feel like it's easier if you just kind of flow with people. But yeah, Sunday's good for us because we were shooting twice a week, and now we're just shooting once. So this is filling that space for us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm excited. So go ahead, ask your questions, and then after that, I got questions too.
So listen, this is for our and I think so far, just Jason and Ida have identified as DSA. I don't know if anyone else is currently having that affiliation. Here's my question for you guys. I feel like my argument as a reparationist is reparations first. It's not just that reparations is important and so is this and so is this and so is that. I don't think you fix anything else before you fix I don't think it's possible. I'm not just saying it's like, this is what I really like, you guys. I think it's super. Let's do it first. I'm saying our society nothing will be repaired until you repair this, because this is like Zen masters have these cones. They have these impossible to understand things you meditate on and you get to enlightenment. That's what reparations is. You don't even understand why.
No, I agree. It is a fundamental pillar to building an egalitarian society.
How do you sell that to DSA? How do you make DSA go along? I feel like you guys have an uphill battle because everyone agrees. I've done this on Twitter 100 times. Sam has done it 500 times and gets called the N-word about 200 out of those 500. How do you get them to
during election season?
it gets hotter during certain times of the year. How do you get them to go along with this? I'm a socialist. I'm just a social democrat, so I'm not with a party or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not even. I mean, I wouldn't even say necessarily I'm a socialist either. I would say I'm more of like an anarchist mutualist. So I'm more libertarian socialism. I'm market socialism. So I fully believe that what you're saying is a reality.
How do you convince your friends at DSA?
Where's the other outlet? This is the largest leftist group in the country. That's it. I mean, 100,000, almost 100,000 people.
Killmonger's warming up.
That's about the amount of people that are
really excited.
Like that's the amount of people.
Look at John D.
willing to put their time and effort into it, and many of those people aren't even putting their time into it. They're just paying $10 a month. So this is not necessarily something that has to be necessarily convinced. I just think that it's a matter.
You think it's the only game in
the
town?
Forefront. Yeah,
it sounds like some Project Takeover stuff. I like it.
This is what I'm talking. That's what I'm saying. I think that it's really the biggest microphone that we're going to get right out of the box. I mean,
Okay.
I think that it's like working with, within the confines of the political system that we have now. It's like either you're going to go for revolution or you're going to try to work within the system. So, I mean, I think that the DSA now has its problems, obviously, just like any other group or organization does.
I'd say.
But I think that, as a microphone, I think it's effective, and I think that they're capable of getting stuff done when they're focused and they're doing the right things. I think things on the ground, mutual aid, stuff like that, I think they're very effective. I don't think that necessarily the 10,000 foot view is the best, but I'm not a communist either. So, I'm more for decentralization than centralization. So I think that people working independently with an overall vision is the most effective way to get it done. I'm not here to say I'm going to be the DSA, face of the DSA within this group by any stretch of the imagination. What I'm saying is that I will use my lack of focus within the group, and use this as a way to focus within the group. And if I can get on this, the racial solidarity committee, that's just one step towards, maybe getting this pushed forward and getting it actually.
You can give them the education that they need.
True. And then I can, and I'm learning from you guys. I'm, like I said, I'm a layperson when it comes to this. I've done some reading. I know about it. I've always,
we'll get you there.
So I'm, I'm on board. I just, I'm not, in the same respect, I'm not going to try to overstep my boundaries either. So, I'm just here to listen, learn, and then, kind of report back on my end and do what I can on that end. And, if it's anything that can be done and it's anything positive, then, so be it. Otherwise, I'll use this format to, push it. And, I've thought about I've done my experience in radio. I used to work in radio in Chicago a long time ago, a lifetime ago. I've done some podcasts on a local radio station down in San Diego. So I do have the experience, speaking to people, interviewing, doing research, so on and so forth. So I think that there's a way to make it work. And whether or not the DSA is going to be, the most effective outlet or the most effective way, I can't say that right now.
At least you're trying. Everybody's trying to jump in here. You got anything, John D? You all right?
I'm reading through the DSA's resolution here. They're asking for $300,000 in staff costs. So no, I'm going through your little plan, Mr. DSA, Mr. CIA. I'm listening. No, it's good. It's good. I'm reading through the bullshit. He's a libertarian one day. He's an anarchist. That's the problem with the DSA right there. Just not actually taking a stand.
I'm using the DSA as a vehicle for, pushing for leftist, policies. I'm just, whether or not I'm not a democratic socialist, I'm a little bit further left than that. To be honest with you.
The whole resolution is actually pretty cool. It's a whole 40-point thing. So it shows you that the DSA is definitely working against a history of being perceived as a mostly white leftist organization. So, proposal number 33 is making a DSA more of an anti-racist organization, including Latino and more immigrant refugees. So yeah, you could tell the whole resolution is definitely, they put reparations in there. So, we'll see, if, how it works out. It's good to see, he is right that out of any standard political organization outside of probably the Green Party, you're not going to get an overt statement of,
don't get me started on the Green Party,
reparations, but I think the DSA is always going to have something going against for it. And I think the reparations first idea is pretty cool. That's why you see, it is weird seeing a lot of the reparations moves having, in these Republican rooms. That's where I kind of snuck around those spaces too. It's interesting. You see a lot of those spaces that do happen. The
Ron, you got to recruit us some folks. We got to get
Republicans. I'm not taking that thing. I just like observing. That I like amateur sociology. I like Americans are really fucked up. So you just kind of watch.
You ain't got to slide in their DMs. just screenshot their profiles. And
I do that.
That's all.
Yeah, just screenshot the profile and send it to you.
I'm just saying that even calling reparation, it's a leftist proposal. It's just that patricia, that fatherly leftist thing that I think a lot of people are just kind of say, even calling reparations a leftist proposal. I just think there's a lot of baggage that clearly DSA is working on in this resolution, and we hope to do it. Every political party in the country is going to be racist as fuck. So it is, but I joke about the CIA stuff, but just take a look in the DSA. That's all I got to say. Just look it up. You got to get the spooks out of there. We'll see.
So I
love you, Jason Smothers.
Listen, man.
That's a CIA laugh.
Claiming that the DSA is CIA actually has no bearing on me whatsoever. Now, if I'm giving $10 to the CIA every month, I'm giving a shit ton more to the U.S. government every year than that. So I guess whatever.
I'm still waiting that Schumacher is just in the cut, and I just.
You got anything, Josiah? Now, mind you, I always think there's feds around. Feds, CIA. I expect them to be everywhere. We got 10 people in the group. At least one person around here.
At least one.
I'm chilling. I don't really have much to say. You cleaned it up at the end because I was going to talk about how racist the DSA is and all of that. But he was like, well, you know what? I'm not really a part of that group. So it kind of seems kind of pointless.
No, I am a DSA member. I'm just I'm not, I guess what you'd say is that I don't identify as a democratic socialist or Democrat. I use the DSA as pretty much the only effective vehicle to try to push leftist policy. I don't know of anybody else. You're not going to tell me I'm going to join some communist party. Are you serious? I voted PSL the last time around. So, I'm doing my part in that regard. The Greens are horrible. I don't even know if they have any positions anywhere nationally. It's
that's how I feel being a Black American.
Obviously I'm not as familiar or in the weeds as some of you are on the DSA history. I came into it just seeing it as a way to actually start to get involved.
Let me ask you a question. Go ahead. Okay, I was just going to say,
we got it.
Okay, I was just going to say, how I have.
Isn't it fun grilling a Bernie, bro? It's fucking great. It feels like 2016 again. Isn't this so fun? This is great. Grilling a Bernie.
I got my chance.
John's getting nostalgic.
So Gabriel, I wanted to. I've been, thinking of what you said in terms of reparations first, and like the DSA, it hasn't occurred to me, and like I told Sam, it it caught me by surprise at the time of the 2020 election. And now, like, reading more about the history, like I wasn't born in this country, and I don't, I'm starting to understand how little I understand about this country. And first I read Howard Zinn's history of the US, and the kind of overarching theme that caught my attention was how enmeshed and inseparable racism and capitalism are in this country.
Yes.
So, and then, like, reading more about the specific reparations history, I'm drawing the same conclusion. And it's really intense. And I think that might be an angle, to approach, like, the DSA and such organizations with. Like, you can't separate one from the other in order to have, in order to be able to bring everyone together and get rid of this beast of the dual beast of capitalism / racism. We all need to go at it together, and we can't go at it together without, the Black people being equal, and they won't be equal until their economic situation is taken care of. So something along those lines.
What's interesting to me, Ida, is that this is my problem with the left generally, relative to reparations. Everyone I've ever read with a theory that's considered a left-wing theory will tell you have to do a power analysis if you're going to act in any society. And that power analysis, the goal of it, at the very heart of it, will always be, I don't care whose theory you're working with, who are the most oppressed, because these are the people we have to work with first. Every single one. And every leftist I've ever talked to acknowledges that. And then you say, okay, great, let's talk about reparations. And they say, well, we can't start there. First, we have to, deal with climate change first. Where is the theorist? When did Marx say, we have to worry about the environment before we worry about people? When did, Che say, I need to check some ponds out to make sure the levels are at the right, like there's no even examples of, and it's not just that. Where it gets more complicated is people will say, well, you have to help all poor people out first. And there's immigration, and those people are suffering. And there's people, trans folks have problems, and these folks over here have problems. None of that is consistent with basic left-wing theory. And so I just don't understand what people are doing in these rooms, where they say, which is why I say, I will vote for anyone who can convince me that reparations is their priority. And you get people real upset. Whenever I'm in the mood to lose 20 followers, I'll just tweet that, because a number of people will immediately say, well, I can't deal with you. They won't even have a discussion because there must be something wrong with you. But my question is why? Why shouldn't the first thing we do be to take care of one another? And then I didn't say I wouldn't, right immediately after that, have wide open borders. Maybe that's my thing, and we can debate over whether or not that's a good idea or not. But I didn't say I don't like people immigrating to America. I didn't say I don't want unions. What I said is, in my opinion, reparations should come first. I haven't seen an argument that says that, no, this has to go first, and this is why. Except the planet is the one, because people say if you don't have a planet, you can't have equality. But I say, if you don't have empathy for one another, you're not going to achieve climate, the kind of legislation you need. And that's what America has developed and exported, like empathy rupture. We've made it like an industry. We've taught people to hate each other, and we've exported it. You got to fix that first. That's my argument. So that's probably the one place where it gets complicated. But otherwise, prove to me that reparations is your priority. I'm voting for you. I don't care. I don't care if it's Donald Trump. Now that's going to end up somewhere. Someone's going to got that. I don't care. I don't have the MAGA hat, so I'm not going to, and I'm not Yvette. But I will make that statement, which I think was her point at the time. Look, help the people who need help. And if you're not doing that, I don't want to hear about, your other excuses, because that's what they are.
You know what it is?
Let me jump in real quick before you go. Now, Gabriel, the devil himself could come to me and say he'll do reparations, and I will sign in blood
Tell me
and
to
go
prove
to
it.
hell for
If
my
I'm
people to get
convinced,
reparations. So Trump is not the literal fucking devil. It's Satan himself. I'll sign the blood oath and go to hell for my people. I don't care. So
look,
Trump is like, I'm not playing.
St. Paul, Sam is biblical, because St. Paul said, if I could save if I could make everyone Christian by being damned, I would do it. And that's what you're saying. And that's straight from the Bible. And that's just the truth, is that this has to be your first priority, or you don't love, really, to me, you don't love the people who live in this country, all of us, because we all need this.
And I think it'll just force I want Josiah to go, but I just want to say, I think it'll force them to fix the floor, because you can't have a bunch of highly middle-class Negroes running around and poor whites still existing. This country will not allow it. Go ahead, Josiah. I'm sorry, I had to jump in right there. I had to let them know, I'll sell my soul. I don't give a fuck.
Okay. What I was gonna say is, this is the other side of American exceptionalism. If America is truly the greatest country in the world, and American whites are truly the greatest people in the world, then what does that say about Black Americans? Well, that means that what we went through was necessary. It was acceptable. So when we look back on it, it's not that bad. In fact, we're kind of like superhumans in a way. We can always save the day. We'll always be there for you, and you don't ever have to do anything for us. We're magical Negroes.
Right.
That's why people get confused whenever we say, hey, didn't we just save everybody's democracy?
Again?
Something out of this? Can we even get a little piece of that democracy we just saved?
We got Juneteenth and Hip Hop Day. Silly Negro.
Sam, you're not right.
But it's the same concept on the left, really, when they say things like, well, we're going to put these things ahead of reparations because they think Black Americans are so used to suffering. What's a little bit more suffering?
Right.
And that's kind of my frustration, because it's like, I listen to the things that white people complain about, and I'm like, this is what drove you to socialism? A little college debt? Do you know my family's been in debt for the past 400 years? I literally do not have an ancestor that did not die in debt.
Can y'all
Are you worried about some college shit? This is what's got you ready to burn down the country and occupy Wall Street? Fuck you.
You can always come back another week if you can.
Yeah. I just want to say something about the DSA. I don't want to trash DSA, but when it comes to...
Just to be clear, you're not offending me. You're not offending me. Go
We
after
heard
me.
Jason.
Just please understand that.
I'm left.
So please, just say whatever you got to say.
All right. When it came to agree or not agree, force the vote to get them off their asses to push for Medicare for all, DSA was nowhere to be found. They were against it. When it came to the Medicare for all recently, March for Medicare for all, nowhere to be found. So I find that the DSA is in alignment with AOC and the squad, and it's very electoral. I don't see them as people on the streets. I do know they do some good stuff. I'm not discounting that. But as far as pushing a policy through or pushing for policies, no, they're not. They will go along with what AOC says. So that's upsetting to me, and I'm not a Democrat anymore. I'm fed up with both parties.
What are you, Sinead? How do you identify?
I'm a real socialist. I don't want to say Marxist Leninist because I don't, but I moved more toward that.
Why not? What's wrong with being a Marxist Leninist? Go for it. Let's do it.
I'm very, very left.
So Sinead, I just want to add that the different DSA chapters are very different. Each one is kind of doing a different thing.
Disappointed they did not come out for Medicare for all. They didn't come out for forcible. They were against it because on the inside, that's what they're saying. AOC saying, we're not doing this. They tend to take their tips from that, and that worries me because as far as reparations, they can say all they want. In my opinion, DSA is mostly white people. I mean, really, I'm sorry, I hate to be so cynical, but you know, I just want more backbone from the DSA, is what I'm saying.
I'm all for that, but I mean, I'm not going to litigate this, but I was against forced vote, and I mean, like I said, I'm terminally online. So it's not that I'm against Medicare for all. It was I was against the methods that were being used to go for
then you're listening to Vosh, and you need to stop doing that.
Who? Oh, Vosh! Oh my God, no.
No. Well, that forced to vote thing totally divided people after Bernie dropped out. I couldn't believe it.
Like I said, I don't want to relitigate this because this is so like I'm so far past this. Like I just think that we need to try to work together a little bit better and not be so concerned about, like you guys said in the very beginning, about the online thing, because I think that the online has really kind of poisoned the well for a lot of future conversations between different groups on the left. I mean, and I don't even know if there's really different groups on the left. I just think it's a lot of moral posturing and so on and so forth. But like I said, I'm all for Medicare for all. I just, that instance was not going to make it happen. It just wasn't going to make it happen. And whether or not that was AOC telling them not to do it, the DSA, I mean, that was before me. I wasn't in the DSA before that, and I wouldn't have been making decisions along those lines anyway. I don't have a phone line to AOC, so you know what I'm saying. That's not really what it is. So.
Yeah,
none of this is.
I know DSA does across the country some very good stuff, but as a big political movement, they don't tend to push. They tend to go along with the establishment, and I'm fed up with that.
I've heard that. I mean, I've heard that plenty. I mean, I agree, and I mean, I run a 10,000 person Bernie Sanders group on Facebook, and I mean, I called everything you could find. I'm called a shit lib every other day just because I have that page, and it's because I wanted to make fun of bad memes of Bernie starting 22 years ago. So, I mean, I'm kind of like above all that fray portion of it now. I'm just way burnt out on it. I understand the issues on both sides. I understand the criticisms on both sides. I get it. But I have my opinion because I'm a human. So, but that doesn't mean that I'm not willing to work with you as long as you're not, I don't know. I mean, I have some exceptions, but
yeah, absolutely. I think anyone, just like in the union, you don't ask who someone voted for. You
right.
We do have to cut this shit out about the infighting and everything. But I think some of us are really fighting to push these people because they're not doing
100%. And I mean, I agree with that. I agree with the tactic. Like I said, I think a lot of my criticism has more to do with like the leadership on that aspect of it, and not so much just the actual movement itself. But
person, I could care less if Jimmy Dore.
Right. Oh my God. Yes. It's just like I said, I don't want to relitigate this. It's so, but yeah, I want people to work together. You know what I'm saying? I just want to work together. I'm here.
I don't.
That's fine.
So funny.
I'm in favor.
We can do it 2 ways. We can do it.
I don't want to work with people.
I'm ready to go. Whichever one you want.
I'm not interested. I think I hear you, and I think for building an institution, I think you're right. You have to make compromises, recognize it takes time, not get too emotional. I'm not interested in any of that. I want what I want, and if you don't give it to me, I'm not going out anymore. I'm not going to the polls anymore, and you can hate me for it. You can call me names. If Donald Trump wins, I will know it's not my fault. It's your fault. I don't mean you, Jason. I'm not blaming you for anything.
I voted
right
PSL the last time around. I voted PSL. So
I I'm saying we're beyond. So we're at a point where, we're told that we're in a democracy. It's a democratic process. You have to be patient. You have to be mature. You have to go through these things. Da, 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 and that is all a lie. And you get to a point where you're like, I don't care if you think I'm a fool. You're a fool. Like, I just know you are, and I'm not going to walk around acting like a fool so that you don't call me one because I'm not 12 anymore. And to me, I have grandchildren. If we don't fix this, I don't have anything to explain to them. Like, I'm not going to tell them a fairy story like, oh, I was working really hard, but it didn't work out. And woo, woo, woo. If I didn't do anything, I'm not going to vote for whatever, if they somehow keep Joe Biden alive for 3 more years. I'm not going to vote for him again just so that I can be like,
they're going to weekend at Bernie's to him. They're going to put the juju on him. He's going to be up the beat like.
I'm already afraid of, I think
Did you see yesterday or whatever, he was with the prime minister of Israel, and it looked like he fell asleep?
It's real bad. They're in bad shape, these old people. We have to say, like, look, and it's for everyone's good. No one will thank us afterwards, but it's for everyone's good. Look, we're not doing anything else until we've got to pull the car over and change the flat tire. Like, this is so stupid. We're going like 70
I agree with that analogy. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so I'll infight. I'll not in the sense that I'm trying to spite someone or whatever, but I'll say, I'm not supporting you and I'm not supporting what you stand for, whoever you are, because you don't understand why reparations need to go first. And that's it. And that's kind of the end. When we're in the political realm, now among us, we should have the mutual respect and kind of, care for each other, that we can have nuanced conversation. Mm-hmm. Publicly, and I know this is being recorded, so in a sense I'm kind of like doing this third wall thing, but when it's publicly for real, look, if you're not voting for reparations, I'm not interested in you. I don't care. You don't have any magic tricks I haven't seen. Like, I've seen all the David Copperfield, I've seen all the nothing up my sleeve stuff, and there won't be a new magic trick. I'm 53. There's not any magic tricks that I'll be like, oh, okay, I'll vote for you because this time I believe you. This person endorsed you. Barack Obama is like standing next to you on a stage. We're going to burn down if we don't have reparations. That's it. And that means my 11-year-old grandchild will not have anything when, it's just like you can't, like, you have to get to a point where it's that serious for you. And I think for a lot of people, it feels like maybe uncomfortable to get here or something. But I think that's why Sam has us all together, and Mike and all you guys. It's like, we're going to help whoever's watching this. We're going to help you all through this. We're going to get you through it because it is weird. It feels weird, but it's not because you're weird. It's because, like, we've been in the matrix for.
Yeah. And I just think that it's hard for people because people are so used to putting Black people on the back burner, right? Because when you say reparations first, people are like, but we need to take care of immigration and we need to take care of, but it's like slavery ended in 1863.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
What other group was harmed during that time that has not been redressed? Even the Native Americans, even though they haven't necessarily hit every single tribe, they have made an attempt to do something with them. They need to do more and they could do better, but they at least made an attempt. And that was before the 50s.
Right.
So it's just one of those things, like, when you look at it, then it's like we've been waiting for so long. We've waited for everybody else to come before us. Like, that time has ended. And I think when people start looking at it like that way, they understand it's like, no, like, we've been here the longest and more people keep coming and you're still not addressing our issues. So you have to take care of us so we can take care of everybody else. But until you take care of us, like, you can't just keep playing these games.
We need to vote for Democrats. And then we'll give.
I know, right? Yeah, vote or die, which is vote and die. They should just call it, the next campaign should just be vote and die.
Vote/die.
Yeah, vote and die, because that's it. It's like we keep voting, and like, like how you were saying, like they literally are having a voting rights march. It's just like we've been marching for voting rights forever. Like, at what point are we going to actually? And it's funny because James Baldwin literally was talking about when the Voting Rights Act happened. He's like, we had a Civil Rights Act of 1866, and y'all didn't uphold that. So why am I supposed to believe that you're going to uphold this? And here we are in 2021. It's just like
amazing, just amazing.
Yeah, so it's a lot. We got a lot to tackle, but we got a little gaggle of people. We can start here and then we just see where we go from here. Because I think, like I said, like, okay, I like listening to Tim's call-ins, because Tim's call-ins have really given me a little bit of hope, because he has a lot of like white people, a few Latino people calling in, talking about like their struggles and what they're going through, like trying to push reparations. So I think it just starts with a spark, right? Like, I think the problem is reparations is so unnormalized. Like, people just didn't think of it. And then I feel like a lot of white people really think that Black people are just kind of doing okay. They think that we have a little bit less than them. They don't understand that we're like destitute. They don't understand that we're like poorer than their poorest in a large way. So I think, some of them won't care, but I think some of them will. Because I think a lot of people just want a good, and for me, I don't know. I guess I just want to bribe people, because there's a lot of good stuff out here that we could fix. No, like for real, because like, okay, pay people reparations, do the federal jobs guarantee so everybody has a job, hit us with that 25 an hour. And then when they start talking about all the other stuff they want to do, like you want to do free housing, that's awesome. Like that'll help everybody have extra. And just think about all the middle class people that are spending like all of their paychecks to keep their kids in good school districts. They don't even necessarily care about keeping them away from Black people. They just want their kids to be competitive. So like, imagine if they could, instead of, buying a $500,000 home so their kid could be in a good school district, they could move to a city that had free housing, great school districts, and great jobs. Like, so they get to keep all their extra money that they make. Like, you just got to bribe people. Like, I don't really have a lot of faith in like people's goodwill in nature. I just think we need to come together and really fight for stuff that's going to better the country. My biggest thing is I just feel like this country has no vision for the future. Like, at least back when it was racist, the vision for the future was for white people to have a good life. Like, they threw that out the wall. They threw that away in the 80s. So it's just like nobody gets a good life. And we're all just here. And it's like, just you got to be the richest of the rich to have a good life. Before, like, it was like, well, you're white, so you can have something. Now it's just like, you took too long, you didn't make enough money, so stay down there with the Negroes.
Yeah, it's like if you're going to give them something, then I don't want it. If you're going to give it to them, I don't want to have it. No one should have it.
See, but nobody really feels like that. People feel like that till you give them a check, right? Remember all the people who didn't want a stimulus until the checks came?
Right.
And then people talk about how they spent their stimulus.
Right. No, you're right. You're right. It's all myth and illusion, right? It's all fiction, but it's got real consequences. It's crazy.
All right. Well, I'm gonna let y'all go because we're getting to the 3-hour mark, and this will start to tax y'all after a while. You'll start getting tired of being on here forever. John's been through marathons with us. I think John's been through like a 4 or 5 hour marathon. Like, oh my God, it's disrespectful.
John's just warming up.
Love
He's
every
like,
minute of
it.
Going back and watching those episodes, I'm like, dang, how do we sit through this? But I appreciate everybody being here, and I'm looking forward to us like going through this and fleshing out more stuff. And I'm looking forward to next week with the vision for the future, because that's where we can get into like the full enchilada. Because my issue with the leftists is they suck. Like, the stuff that they're fighting for isn't even good for poor white people. I've been saying it for months. It's like, oh, let's do some free college. Well, like, but I'm 45 and I have a job and I'm struggling. I don't want to go back to college. What if I have a degree? What if I have a graduate degree? Ada, you going back to college?
No, but canceling student debt would be a nice start.
No, but I'm with the canceling student debt. I don't have a problem with that. I think, to be honest, we need a debt jubilee. We need to cancel all debt.
Later.
So, like, that's the stuff. Like, I'm with that, but. But even that, like, when you start talking about canceling student debt, 50% of white people didn't go to college. 80% of Black people didn't go to college. So it still gets really boutique. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't do it, but I'm saying we have to do multiple things that hit multiple people so we can raise the floor for everybody. And they can do it after they pay me my money. But all right, I'm gonna let you guys go. I had a good time. I look forward to seeing everybody next Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern. It'll be the same link, y'all. Remind me if you need me to send it to you again, but it'll be the same link.
Thanks.
Nice seeing you
All
all.
right.
Yep. Nice
I
meeting you.
appreciate
Have a good week.
everybody.
Yep.
Thanks.
Listening to Reset Race, you now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race, you're now tuned in to Reset Race. What? Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them, put them back on the grill again. We grilling them, put them back on the grill again. We grilling them, back on the grill again. We grilling them, You're listening to Reset Race. Adults need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake. Lineage go back to US Southern plantations. Pennies, Jim Crow, and mass incarceration. Redline and lynchings. We are old from this nation. You're not about justice if you ain't for reparations. MG the wise one, cousin mother intellectual. Samantha bringing fire, anti-black. We pressing you. No permanent friends and no permanent enemies. The backbone of the country. To win, you need our energy. You gon' see. Listening to Reset Race. You now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race. You're now tuned in to Reset Race. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Back on the grill again. We grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. Adults need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake.
Until you do right by me, everything you think about is gonna crumble.
Negroes should do whatever is necessary to bring about a complete solution to their problem. When I say whatever is necessary, they should have the flexibility to do whatever is necessary to solve the problem.